Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation and Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is December 1st, and I'm going to do the Numerology and Kabbalah of December 2020, soon to be followed by the astrology of December 2020. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you here. And, oops. Okay, here we go. All right, so we have made it to the last month of the year, and in true 2020 style, the last month may actually be the most intense of months. I know you don't want to hear that. So let's take a look at it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numerology of the month. And of course, the monthly vibration is a 12, and we can reduce that to a 3 here. And of course, 12 is a sacred number. There are 12 zodiac signs. The 12, when you add it together, is a 3, which is the number of the Trinity. It's the number of creativity. And then we have the universal year vibration, which of course is a 4. 2020 adds up to a 4. And, you know, we've been moving and working with this vibration all year, really. And then when we add those two vibrations together, we get a third vibration, which is the 16-7 vibration, which will be the vibration for the month of December 2020. So if we look at the 12 vibration for the monthly vibration, we have the Hanged Man. We can connect this with the Hanged Man. And this Hanged Man card is associated with the planet Neptune. Now, these planetary correlations are important. We have to look at them through the lens of astrology as well, and how prominent they are. Just recently, Neptune stationed direct. So now Neptune is moving direct in the sky. And Neptune is in a square to the nodes of the moon. Neptune has been in a square to the nodes of the moon since I believe it was mid-summer. It was either midsummer or early summer, where it was in orb of a square to the nodes of the moon. And when a planet is square the nodes of the moon, it activates both ends of the nodal axis. It activates the south node, it activates the north node. The way that this Neptune is squaring the nodes of the moon requires us to examine our past beliefs, our past illusions, our past delusions about situations, and to be able to let go and move forward into the future with a keen eye to the facts. So, this Hanged Man card is associated with the Serenity Prayer. That's the mantra, really, for this card. And of course, it has to do with acceptance. It also has to do with surrender. You don't really have an option. You're hanging upside down. Your hands are tied behind your back, or at least being held behind your back. This requires us to look at things from a different perspective. So the whole month of December, we are going to have to look at what is going on from a different perspective, not the usual perspective that we have. We need to stay connected to spirit. This card, we see this person hanging upside down with a halo around his head. The halo represents our connection to cosmic consciousness. This person is thinking of and connecting to the great oceanic, the great ocean of spirit, as it was, the great cosmic sea. We also can feel like we're in a sense of limbo. So there's going to be a feeling of observing what's going on, but not having a whole lot of power to change, right? Our only power is to accept, to surrender, to accept, and to look at things from a different perspective. And we look at, again, the universal year, which we've been looking at all year. And it's a 4. This is associated with the sign of Aries and the Emperor card in the deck. And we can see the Emperor card right here. The Emperor card is associated with Aries. Of course, Aries is associated with Mars, and Mars happens to be in Aries. In fact, Mars, which normally spends 6 weeks in a sign, uh, has been in Aries or will be in Aries by the time it leaves for 6 months. The reason for that is because we had a Mars retrograde cycle, and it all occurred in Aries, the sign that it rules. The last time that happened was about 40 years ago. So it had been a really long time since Mars was retrograde in its sign. When a planet is retrograde, it does point to the opposite sign. Okay, it's as if it's moving into the opposite sign metaphorically. And the opposite sign of Aries is Libra. And so all actions that we have needed to take have had to be considered actions, which we would consider how our actions would impinge or affect other people. Not generally an Aries strong suit. So this is a real learning time for Aries. It's a real learning time for us. And everybody has Aries somewhere in their chart. And so wherever Aries sits in your chart, you could have felt that you were being held back in some way. Aries, that also means that for the most part, Aries was in that house or is in that house for 6 months. Now that's not true of everybody, because some people have, a little bit of Aries in one house and a little bit of Aries in another house. You would have to know your astrological chart to know how that would affect you. Besides Mars being in Aries at this time, Chiron is in Aries. Of course, Chiron is the wounded healer. It's associated with the wound and also that which heals the wound. Chiron was last in Aries in the 1970s. And so people born in the early 70s are having their Chiron return. That occurs at around 52 years of age. And it's really when we, I think, get it, when we really start to mature. A lot of people say that the Saturn return is a point of maturity. It is, in that we choose to grow up in the Saturn return, or we're forced to grow up in the Saturn return. We're forced to become adults. And yet we are still not quite in touch with our deepest wounds at that point. We're still sort of exploring that. And so when we have our Chiron return, we have an opportunity to heal that. Now, one of the problems or one of the issues with Chiron and Aries can be the wound of identity. Aries is the I am. And so how has your identity wounded you? How has your ability to show people who you really are wounded you, or not show people who you really are wounded you? Mars is also, or Aries is also a sign ruled by Mars associated with the masculine. And so we can see with this Aries, Chiron and Aries, we can see the wound around toxic masculinity. If you're famous, you can grab their lady parts. They like it, that kind of stuff, right? What we can also see where people don't have a good grasp of their Mars energy and their doormats. And we can also see that. And so that can also be a Chiron and Aries wound. There are many ways that the Chiron and Aries can express itself. Warlike actions, right? Soldiers that come back from war, how wounded they are, what we require them to do, and how we don't support them is also something that comes up with Chiron and Aries. We have to remember the last time Chiron was in Aries, we were kind of at the end of, well, not quite the end, but we were in the Vietnam War at that time. And so how we treated those soldiers coming back from the Vietnam War was abominable. But, it wasn't the soldiers, it was the war that was unjust and immoral. And so, the soldiers coming back got a lot of the brunt of that. We have a different relationship with soldiers now, but we still don't really support them in the way that we should. All right, another issue. And then Eris is in Aries. Now, Eris is it's a dwarf planet. It is found in the Kuiper belt. That's where Pluto is found. And Pluto has about a 250 year orbit, whereas Aries has a 500-year orbit. And a lot of that time is spent in Aries. Eris has been in Aries since 1925, I believe. And so she is in Aries, and she's actually been square to Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn, but mostly Pluto, because they're both very, very slow moving all year. And she will have, I think, 2 more exact squares to Pluto next year. And the square between Pluto and Eris is a square, is a last quarter crisis in consciousness square, where we are questioning authority. And so there's a rebelliousness to Eris and Aries. And Eris was a goddess. So we're dealing with the angry feminine archetype, sort of railing against the powers that be. Hence, in 2016, after Trump's victory, we had this, million woman, pink hat march, because as a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A clue of things to come. And also, since then, we've had the Me Too movement sort of take over. That occurred when Jupiter was in Scorpio. Jupiter, of course, has been in Capricorn all this year. So we also have Eris and Aries. So all of these themes that I've just discussed are actually themes that have been going on all year, because we're talking about the yearly vibration. So the Emperor card is about dominion. It's about dominion. It's also, as a 4, about building foundations. And of course, 4 is the number of crisis. And along with crisis, we have opportunity. So it's a breaking down and then a rebuilding. And now the vibration for December 2020. It seems almost apt that the last month of the year vibrates to a 16-7 vibration, because we are dealing with the Tower card. This is the vibration for December 2020. It is associated with the planet Mars. Now, Mars is now, as December begins, is it at 15 or 16 degrees of Aries? It is slowly starting to move forward after its retrograde cycle. It went direct in November. I think it was November 14th. It went direct, or it might have been November 13th, Friday the 13th, that it went direct. But it takes a while for it to speed up, as it were, from that retrograde position. And it's just starting to get speed. And what's going to happen now is, through this period of Mars retrograde, from the summer through the fall and now into the winter, Mars made first quarter crisis in action squares to all the planets in Capricorn. It started in the summer, and then Mars went retrograde. And in the fall, it made its second group of squares to the planets in Capricorn. Just recently, it made a square to Pluto in Capricorn. No, it hasn't made the square to Pluto in Capricorn, no. So what's happening is, as it's moving forward, it's making the last sweep of those squares. Pluto, so it's going to be Mars square Jupiter, Mars square Pluto, Mars square Jupiter, and Mars square Saturn. The Mars square Saturn isn't happening until January, but the Mars, and it's not happening, the Mars square Saturn, the first 2 occurred in Aries and Capricorn. The last one will be occurring in Mars in Taurus, and Saturn in Aquarius, because this month both Saturn and Jupiter move into Aquarius and then make a conjunction. But we'll talk about that when we get to the astrology. This is a profound time. We are shifting into a new reality. And this month is when that shift happens. So it's very, very, very profound. But Mars is going to be making those last quarter squares to Pluto and to Jupiter in the month of December. And so it can be at those times that we have a tower moment. But of course, we're also in eclipse season. We just had a full moon lunar eclipse yesterday, the 30th of November. And we're having another one on the 15th of December, only this is a new moon solar eclipse. And these are south node eclipses, so it's about letting go. So this is really sort of letting go of the old way. This is the just complete release, and all those structures that go along with the old way of being are going to come tumbling down, because any structure that it is in the way of our evolution is coming down. And that's what the tower does. The tower shows us who we are authentically, and everything else is just stuff that we say about ourselves that is really not quite true about us. Okay, so we have the tower as the card of awakening. It is the card of sudden change. This is breaking down all the facades. So if you're a person who is, for the most part, who you are, who isn't trying to be somebody else that you think you're supposed to be, or trying to be somebody else that you wish you were, this is when the tower falls. And what you find once the tower falls is who you authentically are. This is the awakening of the true self. The 16-7, the 7 vibration is know thyself, is know thyself. So this is 16-7 is a karmic number. And what does a karmic number mean? Well, it means that we agreed to have this experience. So everybody who's here now on the planet, on some level, agreed to be here for this transformation and this very, very powerful transformation that we're going through. Now, according to Jean, and I got this from the book Numerology, Spiritual Light Vibrations by Jean, 16-7 is a karmic number. And it says here, this is a karmic vibration that brings the opportunity to transform and to transmute, to tear down and to rebuild. The key word is awakening, a flash of intuition or understanding, a bolt from the blue that brings an awareness that was not there before. In the tarot, it is the tower, also called the lightning struck tower, the bolt of lightning that brings a clear understanding, the symbol of the electric serpent forces of the Kundalini. So for some of us, we could be having Kundalini experiences. Kundalini experiences. That is an awakening of the sleeping serpent that sits within our base chakra to rise up through our chakras and awaken us and awaken our third eye. Unforeseen and sudden events are intended to tear down and rebuild existing conditions, to make room for the new. There will be an awakening to the spiritual truths that lie deep within the soul. Through silence and meditation, all obstacles can be overcome. Remember, we're in a 12-3 month. And so for the most part, in a way, that's really all we can do. This is the number of the mystic, and you can become one with the one God. The goal of the 16-7 is to link the personal spirit with the universal spirit. So this is connecting with your own God self, your own God force, and remembering that you are spirit, having a human experience. So if we look at where December 2020 sits on the tree of life, it actually, and where the tower sits on the tree of life, it actually sits right here. If you look here, between these two Sephiroth, this is Hod or splendor, and this is Netzach or victory. And the path of the tower sits right here along this line. So the 16-7 tower vibration is located on the 27th path, which mediates between Netzach, the realm of emotions and the personality, and Hod, the thinking mind. So this is our reasoning self, and this is our feeling emotional self. The essence of this path is transformation through the destruction of outgrown forms, called the activating intelligence. The veil here, and the veil is the untruth of it. That which is blasted away is destroyed. And the mystery is that matter does not die. It just continuously changes form. And so what falls away from you is not really gone. It's just going to change. And hopefully, if you can make the most of this transformational experience, it becomes a better way for you to understand who you are, and you can build upon your new sense of self connected to spirit. So if we look energetically, if we take the chakra system and we overlay the chakra system on the tree of life and see where the tower sits, or where this 27 path sits, it says energetically the 16-7 vibration lies within the solar plexus chakra. And here we have it right here, the solar plexus chakra. It is the chakra of our personal will, our sense of autonomy and personal worth. Called Manipura, meaning lustrous gem. It is associated with the element of fire. So this is really a trial by fire. And this is the place of transformation. So Manipura, the solar plexus chakra, known also Manipura meaning lustrous gem. The purpose of this chakra is transformation. The color associated is yellow. Its identity is our ego identity. The solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra, and the root chakras are chakras that are formed when we incarnate. They are vehicles for which the soul can experience the physical world. Unfortunately, sometimes we think that that's who we are. We are those three lower chakras. We are who we are in the world. But we are much greater than that. And our story is much bigger and goes back a lot further. But it is in this chakra that we learn how to become the captain of our own ship. We become autonomous. We become who we are and how we move around in the world, how we can transform our lives and then transform the lives of others. It is our ego. This is a place of ego. And so we will be seeing people expressing their ego at this time. And yet it is also the tower. And so it's not just about expressing your ego, but it's about allowing the ego to be a obedient servant to our higher self, our higher spiritual selves. And so this isn't really, even though we're dealing with the ego identity, it's not really about getting what we want, but it's becoming a conduit of spirit. The orientation here is self-determination, and the demon is shame. So this information is coming out of one of my favorite books, Eastern Body, Western Mind, The Psychology and the Chakra System as a Path to the Self by Anadia Judith. Anadia Judith. This is a great book. It's well loved, as you can see. So the issues in the third chakra, energy, activity, autonomy, individuation, will, self-esteem, proactivity, and power. All of those sit in that chakra. The basic right of this chakra is to act and be an individual. What makes you unique on this planet? What gifts are you going to share on this planet? Balance characteristics of this chakra: responsible, reliable, ego strength, so you know who you are, confidence, spontaneity, playfulness, and an ability or able to meet challenges. So if you have those qualities, it generally means that you have a healthy solar plexus. Traumas and abuses of this chakra can create blocks and problems, and those come out as ways of being. And people who exhibit these sort of negative characteristics have been wounded in this chakra. Shaming, authoritarianism, volatile situations, domination of will, punishment, enmeshment, and emotional manipulation. We also see this in the parentified child, when the child is required to parent the parents. This is when the child is given too much responsibility, right? A child isn't really able to be a parent. The parent is supposed to be the parent. And many times, and many people certainly that I see in my practice have this experience as a child. I personally have had this experience as a child. So dealing with individuals who have a wounded self-esteem, a wounded sense of self, a wounded third chakra. The President of the United States exhibits all of these things. In fact, his soul vibration, Donald Trump's soul vibration, is the 16-7. And we have all been waiting for him to have his tower moment. I think his moment has come. So that's what I want to say about the numerology and Kabbalah of December 2020. As I said, I will be doing the astrology that will probably come out tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something from it. I certainly learned something doing it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll put my contacts below. If you would like an astrology, a Kabbalah reading, a numerology reading, I do all of those things. I actually have a special Kabbalistic life reading that includes astrology, numerology, and working with the Tree of Life that people really seem to love and find very, very helpful. We all need a little help, I think, including myself. So have yourself a wonderful December. Like and subscribe. Thank you for all your donations. Thank you for all my new clients. I am really, really grateful for the friends I've made, the clients I've gotten to know, the students that I've also gotten to know. I will be starting a new sort of advanced beginners astrology class in January. I will be starting a new beginners astrology class in January. And I am also going to be starting a Kabbalah and numerology classes in 2021, most likely in January. I just have to figure out how I'm going to fit it all in. All right, guys, love you. Much love. Namaste.